Windsor here, and welcome to the Groove Guru podcast. And today I wanted to explore something that's at the heart of our psychological functioning, and that's the creative power of thought. And when we truly see this for ourselves at a deeper level, life flows with more ease, clarity, and well-being, no matter the circumstances. And before we get into this one, if you enjoy what I share on these podcast videos, I invite you to like and subscribe on your favourite podcast experiencing platform. So, thought is what I'm saying is at the heart of our psychological experience. And for me, understanding how the mind works continues to be a fascinating exploration. And it's not just fascinating, it's something I've found incredibly helpful in experiencing life with a degree of richness, emotional freedom, and a sense of contentment that I never knew was possible. And one of the most impactful teachers in my exploration of this has been the Scottish mystic philosopher Sydney Banks. Not just because he's Scottish or was Scottish, but because his teachings have the power to wake us up to something incredibly profound. And the three principles he articulated speak to this quite directly. So the three principles, well, Sid articulated these as mind, consciousness, and thought. You know, mind as the universal intelligence behind all life, consciousness, which essentially is our awareness, our capacity for that, and thought as the creative energy that we have that shapes our experience of life. Or even simpler, mind, consciousness, and thought. It's pretty common sense, and most people would agree that we all have a mind, we're all conscious or aware of life to the extent that we are, and we all think. Now, I could describe them that way, but these principles are not just concepts about how we work psychologically and how we can function better and more healthily, though they can certainly help us in that way quite a bit, and quite profoundly and practically. It's that they're also a beautiful pointer to something that's much deeper, that helps us directly experience the fullness of life and realize the presence of our true nature and what we really are in our heart of hearts. So what I'm sharing and the insights that I've had, it wasn't obvious to me immediately. And for many years, I struggled mentally and didn't know why. And what I've learned, and I'm sharing, it really changed me from the inside out, or the insight out, as I sometimes like to put it. And just like everyone's body essentially works the same way, and there's different systems present, like the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, all working in harmony together. I've come to see that these principles of our psychological life are also always working in harmony together and help us make sense how our minds work in a universal way. And it's like similar to how physically, you know, people can have different expressions and presentations and different aesthetics. Psychologically, we all have different expressions and thoughts and images that we create as part of our mental life. But at the core, we all work the same, in the same way. And ultimately, it's, our experience of life, which we can call the feeling that we're in or our state of mind. It's being created through thought in the moment. And if we zoom out, we can see that we all fluctuate on a continuum of like two states, really. You could call it between love and fear, or love and absence of love, or security and insecurity. And the more insecure that we feel, the more our thinking and thought is clouded and reactive, and in a way, the more insecure we are, the more dysfunctional we are in the moment. And then on the side of security, the clearer we are, the more functional and the more capable that we are of thriving, with excellence and much more clarity. And we all experience that fluctuation in our state to some extent. And what is it though that gets in the way of the optimal functioning, the state of security? Well, simply put, illusions of thought. And our thought, it is an amazing creative tool, but when misused, it can distort our reality and clarity, and also create suffering in the insecurity that we experience. And how thought works. We think it and we feel it. It doesn't matter who the person is. We think it and we feel it. And it looks real to us. It can look like a reality, but it's a made up illusionary one. And that's key to understand. And there's nothing wrong with creating our experience in that way. That's how thought works. And it can be useful. The intellect is a great tool. We can use it to plan things and create things. And it's a tool. And we can learn to use it more and more wisely, which is what I'm pointing to here. Yet, it's possible to use it unwisely. And what am I talking about when using it unwisely? Well, worrying about things that don't happen. Catastrophizing. You can imagine worst case scenarios about things, and holding on to unjustified fear that keeps us stuck. And a big one, being scared of what we think. And that's all examples of what I'm going to call, as you could say, insecurity in the moment. And how do we get out of our own way of that? Well, the first thing, as a realization I invite you to explore, is that we don't need to be afraid of our experience. And we might not like what we're thinking up from time to time, and we can all do quite a good job of scaring ourselves with our own imagination. But when we start to see that for what it is, an illusion of thought, and even though it feels real, it's not reality, the unhelpful thinking that we do, it can start to lose its charge. Like for me, I was afraid of a lot of the thinking that I was doing. But when I start to see that didn't help, and that I could let go of that was a huge insight, and has led to quite a lot of very cool results. Okay. And another thing is that we don't need to fight our thoughts and wrestle with them to get out of our own way either. We just need to recognize them for what they are and have a deeper insight into the nature of thought. And we can see that thought is fluid. it comes and goes, and we don't need to think into every thought that we have. And essentially, when it comes to thought, there's only two directions you could go in. When we create thought, from nothing, something and everything we think is created, and everything in life. When we create a thought, we can either think into the thought that arises and amplify and intensify it, or we can let it pass through us. And the more we see thought for what it is and let it pass through us, then the more we get out of our own way and the more we fall in love with life. Now, when I say love, I don't mean romantic love, but a feeling of more pure love. It's a holding a space for what's going to show up that comes as a result of what I'm going to call thought recognition. Now, thought recognition, the way I'm talking about it, it's not about like mentally repeating, okay, this is a thought, or even labeling and categorizing the thoughts that we have. Okay, this is a happy thought, this is an anxious thought, or this is a judgy thought. It's about seeing thought for what it is without getting caught up in it. And thought recognition it's not mentation, which is just more thought and mental activity. What I'm pointing to here is the feeling of thought recognition, which it's a feeling that comes with an awareness. And it's seeing that whatever experience we create psychologically, it's coming through us, that we're the thinker. And seeing thought for what it is, an illusion, a thought-created illusion and not reality. And realising that we don't need to think into and engage and entertain every thought that arises. Some thoughts you don't want to invite in for coffee and cookies or whatever, okay? And as we start realising and waking up to what we're doing and stop engaging with the unhelpful and insecure thoughts, space naturally opens up within us. And as we start to look in this direction from moving away from psychological resistance and friction, the unnecessary, into a space of more ease and clarity psychologically, that's when we start to experience some of these shifts that I'm speaking about. And is what's known as waking up to our true nature. So as we look in this direction, as we realise we can wake up from thought and let go of that which is unhelpful, we wake up to our true nature and we directly access what I'm going to call our psychological immune system. That is just like if we have a wound or a cut, etc., when we leave it alone and stop picking at it, it heals. And our mind similarly clears and heals whatever needs to be healed when we stop poking at it and interfering with it, okay? And when we start to see beyond our mental noise in that way, we open to what you could call pure consciousness, or that feeling of pure love. And that's our natural state of peace and clarity, which is beyond all of the noise of our thought system. Like from the turbulence of the waves atop the ocean, if we dive deeper, there's a relative stillness there. And when we access that space and that stillness, we can refer to this as having an insight. And in that way, there's only one insight, which is looking within from the form to the formless, or psychologically from thought forms to the space, or from the content to the context, from the clutter to the clarity. Okay? In another way, you could say that when we then do that and have that insight, we open for insights. That from that space of being free and clear, we're naturally going to think fresh and new thoughts in the moment. And when we're receptive to that, that's when we get the answers that we need that help us be more responsive to life and less reactive, as we've spoken about before. So bringing it back to health, it's like just like the body returns to homeostasis when we leave it undisturbed, our mind naturally returns to what I'm going to call mental homeostasis, which is, as I see it, the calmness and clarity and resilience that's always there underneath the noise of our thought system. Okay? And it reveals itself when we stop indulging in insecurity and worry by ruminating or overthinking, and we access this clear space that we're receptive to what's showing up in the moment. And for various reasons, as we've explored, it's helpful to do that. But what stops us doing this? And one thing that can stop us looking in this direction, it relates to uncertainty. Now, the nature of life is uncertain. You know, there's so much that we just don't know. Like, we don't know what we'll think next. We don't know who exactly we'll meet when we're going to go out somewhere. We don't know what the winning lottery numbers are going to be, etc. And we like to look for and balance that with certainty, which essentially translates to filling the space of uncertainty with more mental noise. And a lot of that can be helpful for various reasons. We can, plan things and create things, etc. But a lot of it can be unhelpful as well. And what I'm pointing to is, what if we didn't engage in the unhelpful stuff so much? And instead of being afraid of uncertainty and worrying about the unknown, what if we became more comfortable with that space and with, I don't know? And what if we started to trust that unknown is where the best insights and creative ideas come from? From nothing, something is created. From nothing, everything is created. That's the creative principle that I spoke about in the last episode. And from the unknown, if there's something that we want to know, we can define it. What do I want to know? And seek practical knowledge, look it up, Google it, ChatGPT it, ask someone that knows, okay? Find the answers. And also, it's being okay with not knowing and staying open until you do know. So it's being okay living in that space of, I don't know, and being receptive to the insights that come through you and that show up in a way that's custom designed for you, perfectly appropriate for whatever you are looking in the direction of. So I've shared a lot in this one, and bringing this back down to land, so to speak, here's something I invite you to play with today, this week. And the first thing is to notice and see if you can notice your experience coming from you via thought. Okay? And if you notice that you are thinking up your experience, maybe as you've been listening to this, I'm pretty sure you've been thinking things that got in the way. And when we think in ways that cover up our clarity, we don't listen as well. But if you can notice that you're creating an experience and see that you are the thinker, that's the first one. And the second thing is step back and realize that, as we said, you can either think into an experience or you can let go and let it pass through. And it's, if you realize that you're creating an experience that's heavy, painful, stressful, insecure, that you don't need to think into that and you can let it go. And I'm suggesting that if it is really painful and stressful, letting go is a wise thing to do. And the third thing is that when you let go, it's to trust and see what happens when you let go of unhelpful thought instead of engaging with it and thinking into it. And see what shows up when you let your head settle instead of going into this stress and insecurity that might come up. Because it's beyond thought content. It's where the real clarity and wisdom and new ideas arise for you. And what if you allowed yourself to have way less unhelpful thoughts weighing on your mind than you think you need to? Well, when you show up from that space, there's nothing in the way of your health, your wisdom, and the freedom that you have to create more of what you really want. So have fun looking in this direction, recognizing the power of thought and waking up to those moments that your wisdom and clarity arise. And I'll speak with you again soon.